Top 10 favorite films 2018. I gotta tell you guys, I didn't see as many films this year as I normally do before making this list. So there's definitely blank spots for me, things that are missing. What I'm trying to say is I haven't seen A Star is Born yet, but I still have 10 really strong, wonderful films here that I personally really loved, and the point of this whole thing is always just to get you guys to hopefully go check out some movies that maybe you haven't seen. So without further ado, at number 10 I have the Fred Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? This is from director Morgan Neville. You know, growing up, I was never a big fan of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I was a kid and I just honestly was bored by it, didn't really engage with it. But now, especially being older and looking at his life through this documentary, I can see that the show is actually probably a lot more beyond me than I give it credit for. You know, he used the show to talk about social issues, to talk about things that kids were going through. To me, it's a film that's very much about, I think, what it is to be a good person, to be a good neighbor, and I definitely recommend everybody check it out. At number 9, I have Shoplifters. It's a quiet, small kind of family drama. Definitely gave off strong Ozu vibes, which apparently the director is heavily influenced by Ozu. But this is a very subtle film. It's very, very kind of small and intimate. Definitely worth checking out. Wonderful, wonderful film. You have to see it. At number 8, I have You Were Never Really Here. This is from Lynn Ramsey. A few years ago, she did a film called We Need to Talk About Kevin, which was very stylized and definitely showed, I think, a lot of talent. But I didn't necessarily feel like she was in full control of the material quite yet. The exact opposite is true with You Were Never Really Here. It's brutal and dark, and fascinating and kind of poetic in a way. A lot of comparisons to Taxi Driver, and I think that those are, accurate. But I also think that she's carved out her own particular voice, and I really, really love it. Coming in at number 7, I have 8th Grade. This is from Bo Burnham. You guys might know Bo Burnham. He's a stand-up comedian. Does a lot of really high concept, form breaking kind of stuff. Nothing like the film that he made here, at least not on the surface. This is, to me, a very poignant film about anxiety and depression and what that feels like. One of the things that really works about this film, and the reason why you really root for its character Kayla, is that you can tell she's trying. She's trying so hard to make it work, to engage with the world, to get over her anxieties, and it's just nothing is working. And I think that that's what it actually feels like to have anxiety, to have depression, to feel lost or lonely, all of these things. And I think this film really gets those emotions right. I remember Roger Ebert talking about how movies typically deal better in emotions than ideas, and I think that is certainly true of 8th Grade. At number 6 is First Reformed. This is written and directed by Paul Schrader. Paul Schrader, most known for writing Taxi Driver. And what's really interesting is that this film is actually very similar to Taxi Driver in that it is kind of once again really putting you behind the eyes of someone who is succumbing to torment and madness. It's certainly not going to be for everyone, but I think that for those of you who maybe come from maybe more of a religious background or have at least an interest in such things, I think this is a fascinating, wonderful film. At number 5, I have The Favorite. This is the latest from Yorgos Lanthimos. I think that's how you say his name. I'm trying to get it right, guys. I really am. This is a wild and bizarre and wonderfully funny and dark and strange movie, and yet, for all intents and purposes, this is his most accessible film yet. I think that it's probably a little bit easier for a general audience member to engage with this movie versus The Lobster or Killing of a Sacred Deer. both of which I think are probably more creative films and maybe, are better representations of his voice. At the core of it, you have three of the best actresses, I think, working today. Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and Olivia Colman, who are all extraordinary here. Definitely check it out. It's one of the best movies of the year. At number 4, I have Private Life. This is from Tamara Jenkins. A few years ago, I think about 10 years ago now, she made a film called Savages with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Laura Linney. And whereas that film was really a film about death, Private Life is a film about life, or about the desire for life. Paul Giamatti and Kathryn Hahn play a couple who are trying to have their first child. They're getting older, and it seems that everything is working against them here to start a family. And if it doesn't sound like that interesting of a film, I promise you, when the writing is this good, it is. It's so funny, it's so honest and really felt, and of course, Kathryn Hahn and Paul Giamatti, wonderful performers. I mean, Paul Giamatti is one of my favorite actors of all time. The complete surprise of the year for me. Wasn't expecting it, and it blew me away. Honestly, I love this movie. I can't say enough nice things about it. At number 3, we have Lee Chang-dong's Burning. This film absolutely blew me away. One thing I've really come to appreciate about foreign cinema in general is that they don't seem to be as obsessed with genre as we are. Case in point, this film begins as a drama, feels like a drama, but as things go on, you start to realize more and more that maybe you're in a thriller, and it almost starts to feel like something that Alfred Hitchcock would have been drawn to. Really a remarkable film, and I recommend every one of you check it out. It's so good. At number 2, we have If Beale Street Could Talk. This is Barry Jenkins' adaptation of the James Baldwin novel, and right there you have the makings of a great film. I remember seeing a talk with Barry and him talking about how back when James Baldwin was looking to adapt the movie, and he was like writing down directors that at the time he would have wanted to make it. He was writing down names like Francois Truffaut and Louis Malle. And so how appropriate that Barry Jenkins, who I think very much as a modern new waver, would take on this material, because he absolutely is the perfect guy for it. The score by Nicholas Britell is gorgeous. It is one of the most beautiful soundtracks I've ever heard, not just in this year, but any year. Really, I'm like the biggest Barry Jenkins fan at this point, and in any other year, If Beale Street Could Talk would definitely be my number 1. Any other year. But in 2018, another film came out, a film that moved me to my core, that I think stands with some of the best films I've ever seen in my life. My number 1 favorite movie of 2018 is Roma. When we talk about masters in terms of art, whether it be music, painting, film, whatever, I usually think about somebody who is in complete control of their medium. And I think Alfonso Cuarón shows that control. He becomes a master. Not that he was a slouch before. I mean, come on, this is the guy who made E.T. Mama Tambien and Children of Men and Prisoner of Azkaban. But Roma is on a whole nother level. This is craftsmanship to its finest. There's moments and shots in this movie that I just was completely blown away by. I couldn't believe sometimes what I was seeing. It has the scope of an epic, but it's this small, intimate, personal story that is birthed directly out of Alfonso's own life. And it's remarkable. This is one of the most beautiful films ever made. And the crazy part about that is that Chivo didn't even shoot this one. Alfonso shot it himself. This movie has some of my favorite shots I've ever seen in a movie. I was just sitting in the theater going like, holy shit, I can't believe how beautiful this is. And even though it is available to watch on Netflix right now, and you can go do that, I beg of you, please, if it's a possibility in your area to go see it in a movie theater, please, please, please go see it in a movie theater. Please support it on the big screen. Trust me, this film is so gorgeous, you're not going to want to see it on a small screen. Granted, if you don't have access to a theater who's showing it, I know that they're doing like a 70mm print in like 6 cities. So if you can see it that way, do. But if not, then yeah, just get out there and watch it, because this is really one of the most beautiful, wonderful films I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite movies I've ever seen. You gotta see it. Roma, Alfonso Cuarón. It's a master, and it's a masterpiece. And that's my list, everybody. I don't have as many honorable mentions this year as I normally do, but I'm gonna run through a few of them for you really fast. BlacKkKlansman was really my number 11 this year. As the film that just kind of got pushed out at the very end, but Spike Lee did incredible work on this film. My favorite blockbuster of the year was actually Ready Player One, and I know that's probably not like the most popular choice, but I felt like it was really Spielberg coming back to the genre that he pioneered in the first place, and I definitely had like a blast in that film. Damien Chazelle's First Man is really, really good. At Eternity's Gate is a really stellar film. Willem Dafoe plays Vincent Van Gogh, or Van Gogh. I hate this thing that you have to say Van Gogh's name twice now, once to prove that you're educated and once to prove you're not pretentious. Cold War, stunning black and white film. A Quiet Place, phenomenal film. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, visually really stunning. And then finally, I'm going to give a shout out to Infinity War, because I think that even though that film is super bloated and everything, and there's too many characters, somehow the Russos managed to kind of cut through that and craft a film that I think for the first time felt like it had stakes and consequences. And so this great experiment that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of felt like it paid off, and we'll see how it goes with Endgame. But right now, I'm like, wow, that was actually kind of impressive. And that's my list. That's all that I can think of right now. Of course, like I said, there's tons of stuff that I didn't see this year, so if your favorite's not on the list, it's probably because I haven't seen it yet. But like I said, thought that this was still a really strong top 10, and really happy with the movies I saw this year. So yeah, I hope you guys had a great year at the movies like I did, and I'll see you next year.